Thank you. All right.
All right, we're getting our technical pieces together. Let's see. Someone came in from Greenville, South Carolina, Constance. So as I was saying, I am in the Cajas Mountains of Ecuador in what's called a basin. So it's a valley in the mountains, a little over 8,000 feet. And because of that, and the fact that we're about 2 degrees south of the equator, it is 70 to 75 degrees every day, year round, with low temperatures usually in the 50s. So they call it perpetual spring. It could be spring or fall on any given day, or all of that in between, but usually it never gets warmer than mid 70s, and it usually never gets colder than low 50s. So as we go into summer here on the south of the equator, pretty much the days are consistent as they were last month and the month before and the month before and the month before. Because we're close to the equator, we've got a really nice balance of sunlight. We're just about 12 hours of sunlight every day year round. So it really has been a different type of balance in my life. All right, so let me tell you, first of all, why I continue to do field trips, virtual field trips with Atlantic Institute. Some years back, before I retired to Ecuador, I lived in South Carolina, and I became involved with Atlantic Institute, partly because Atlantic Institute really aligns with the values for my own life. And part of that includes providing us with exposure opportunities so we learn about the differences in humanity, literally. And through that exposure, really being able to develop an appreciation for the differences in our life. So often we talk about the things that separate us in a way that's oftentimes negative or harmful or hurtful. We see that in so many places where we intentionally put walls up. And yet this organization has really been about sharing from the various cultures and the differentnesses that we have, and really developing an appreciation and even love for some of those differences in all kinds of different ways. And so as I retired, they said, would you like to take us on some of these virtual field trips? And I said, I'm going anyway. So I would be more than happy to take you all along with me. And so here we are again today with another virtual field trip with you from all different places. And yet with technology, we can all be in the same place together. And so we're from South America to North America. We've got Greenville, but with citizenship and access here to South America through Brazil, Minnesota, Maine, South Carolina, DC. And if you haven't put your location in there, put that in the chat box so that we know where you're coming in today from also. So this month, I thought I'd talk about community. In doing some reflection and really some things that were happening even last month in my life that was really about connecting and play, I realized that so much of leaving one place was really about developing community in a new. Leaving a country that you know and that you've been familiar with my whole life. I was born in the United States. I was born in Northern California and have spent most of my adult life in the deep South of the United States, Georgia, and eventually South Carolina. And to pick up and to move, especially not having a mastery of Spanish, to a Spanish-speaking country where I get lots of funny looks when I introduce myself because of my name in this Spanish-speaking country. And I realized as I was looking in reflection that so much of the joy of being here has been about the community that I have found in all kind of unexpected places here in Ecuador. And I thought I'd share about that. I could have named this The Tables I Eat At, because so many times the relationships that have been built involve things like food or fun and music, or all of those rolled up together. And I thought I'd talk about that today and really share with you just some snippets of the journey that I've had into community in some really wonderful ways, really colorful and delicious ways. And so I wind those together. And so that's what I decided to share with you today. And so you'll be able to see some of the sights of the places that I've been and get just an inkling of the kind of community that I'm having down here. And so through the magic of technology, let's see if I can get myself together here. Whatever you see, I will be doing my best. What you see on the screen will be my best. Even if there's technical difficulties, it'll be my best.
Just don't lose the camera this time.
I started with, and I really should show you the title, Community Table Number 1, because really this could be the tables that I've eaten at. And I wanted to start with my very first trip.
Did you share your screen yet?
I didn't push the button? Okay,
Nope.
Let's try it again. Let's push the button.
There we go.
My grandson reminds me often about pushing the button, usually as he's hanging up on me on the telephone. He's 2, almost 3. And so I started with, I went back in my photo memories, and I decided to start with this particular experience. When I thought about where I'd spend my retirement, I decided to take a gap year. I decided to find places that really felt exciting to me. But there was one question, and that one question was, is this where you'd like to live? And I had some things mapped out. I did lots of internet research. I even visited some other countries. And as a magical thing happens in life sometimes, Ecuador came on my radar. And then someone who had lived in Ecuador came on my radar. And then, the algorithms do things, and then some articles and links and things started showing up about Ecuador. And I thought, I've got the time now that I'm retired. I'm going to take and plan a trip. And so in my mind, I went through all kinds of thoughts. Oh, it'd be so nostalgic to live back on the Pacific coast. I grew up on the Pacific coast, a little bit farther north. But nonetheless, I thought that might be exciting. When I retired, I picked up some new hobbies, and one of them was scuba diving. And I thought it'd be wonderful to be right there on the beach every day. And I could, scuba dive my days away and lounge on the beach with the other days, because, retirement means I get to do exactly what I want to do, literally. And as I began, I mapped out an exploration trip to Ecuador, and one of the cities that I chose, partly because of the scuba diving, was Puerto Lopez. I didn't know anyone, and I really couldn't speak the language. I had taken the obligatory 2 years of high school Spanish several decades ago, none of which I maintained. And if I say none, that really is a lie, because I remember that teacher reminding us how to pronounce the vowels, a, e, I, o, u. And then that rhyme followed, el burro sabe más que tú, which means the donkey is smarter than you. And I realized very soon, as I considered Southern American countries, that would be just enough Spanish to get me into a fight. And so even with the limitations and the insecurities that created in my life, I went to this place not knowing anyone. But sometimes you find places that thrill you in a way that people don't really understand fully. But this little town of Puerto Lopez is a fishing town. And every morning, if you go out on the beach right before sunset, you'll see a gathering of people as if waiting for the sun to rise. Right before sunrise, waiting for the sun to rise, and they're waiting for this motion to begin, where the fishing boats come in and the men begin offloading the fish or the catch of the day. They begin bartering even before the boat comes in from the shore. And it was on one of these mornings on this trip where I reached this new town, not knowing anyone, that I came out early in the morning to watch what was happening. Even the birds get in on the action, because the parts that aren't going to be used and sold are often put right back into the ocean. And so the birds also come and wait for the morning's gifts to be given. The boats are literally backed up to the ocean, where the fish and the shrimp and other kinds of things are offloaded. There's carts of all kind. In this particular community, these motorcycle carts are carts that carry all kinds of things, including entire operations, butchering operations right there on the shore. Most people, even though they may have long sleeves on, will have shorts and flip-flops. The weather is tempered even though it's overcast. And the treats from the ocean are brought in from these little skipper boats that are really just part of the culture. The bins where fish are stacked and grouped based on pricing. That grouping of fish might have been $3 for any of those bundles that you see. And there's things that you can take, but this was the picture that I wanted to focus on and share about this table. You see, communities sometimes are the people that have been in your life for years and years and years, but sometimes they're the people that you meet on the side of the beach. One of the really cool things about this particular community is also what's happening at early in the morning is they're setting up beachside restaurants. And a restaurant in this little community would be a tent, like we'd be accustomed to, a pop-up 10 by 10 tent. There'd be a stove either fueled by propane or by charcoal. And they'd be walking to the end of the beach and buying fresh fish. They'd be walking it back down the beach by hand and preparing it. And those that were hungry would simply sit and grab a seat at the table. And if there weren't any, you'd wait for somebody to finish so that you could grab a seat at the table. And most of the people that eat at these kinds of restaurants are local. And so on that particular morning, after watching for probably 2 hours the motion of their morning, I walked to the little spot and simply took a seat. My Spanish was limited, but with cell service and technology, I could translate what I wanted to say into Spanish. And I could have them talk into my phone because I learned how to say, habla en mi teléfono. My telephone speaks a lot of Spanish, even if I don't. And I was able to communicate and share with them that I was on a journey and thinking about living in their country. And I realized that part of my community are these isolated incidents where you cross paths with people, where you sit down at a table and each one of us was having our needs met in a very similar way. There were 2 little ladies and a man that were preparing. They had already prepared a big pot of rice. They already had prepared a big pot of soup. And we ate that while they prepared the entree. On that particular day, they were serving marlin and some other fish. And I watched as the marlin supply got low. I watched as they sent the man down to one of those motorcycle carts that was a converted butcher shop every day. And I watched as they came back up the beach with a hunk of marlin. They sliced it and prepared it and sat it before me and whoever else was next. And we all sat around the table on a beach at about 7 o'clock in the morning, eating fish as fresh as you can get right from the boat. And they, in that time, were my community. Now, the story beyond the story is that I've been back to that community several times, and now there's people that I have relationship with, and maybe even 1 or 2 of them remembers me by name. That's the first table I want to share with you. And then the second table is about one of the other relationships. My things reordered. Okay, two. Because as I was exploring, I didn't yet have a place that I was going to call home. I was just exploring. But through the magic of internet, I was able to meet some people. And they said, well, if you're going to retire somewhere, there's a place called Vilcabamba. It's known as the Village of Longevity. We hear about blue communities, and it was one of those kinds of communities. It has been for many years. But they said there's a lot of people there. There's quite a big population of expats, and some of them are hobby farmers. Maybe that's a comfortable place for you. And I'm game. And with a $10 or less bus ticket off, I went as part of this excursion to Vilcabamba, to a friend of a friend's house who also enjoyed food and farming, kind of like me. We find points of connection, the things that connect us. Food always does, but sometimes people like to do food like you do. And this was one of those opportunities. She said, let's go to the market and then we'll come home and we'll cook together. And that was right up my alley. And we went down to the center square and to the market. And the first thing that I see is the shaman offering blessings. Everyone in the market stands still as he offers the blessings. He burns the leaves and he grants them a blessing for their day after he has blessed the market and the food that's in it. There was a respect, and that felt like community for me. I'm not Ecuadorian. He might have been Quechua or some other indigenous type, coming from an indigenous heritage there in the area, because there's many. But everyone in the market, both Ecuadorians and the expats, stood in respect. And some of them even got in line to have the smoke blessing passed over them. Even though I'm in a different place, this was common to me. The food and the connection between those that grow the food and those that will eat the food. And sometimes they're one and the same. But this and the people were one of the experiences where I realized how much personal connection was tied to the culture of this place that I was deciding whether I wanted to live in. Booth after booth, with the people who had grown and then harvested this food themselves. You're connected. You're connected because their hands allowed you to eat food that's one hand removed from the soil. But it also lets all of these people come together and realize a common thread, and the common thread is food. We all got to eat. Some eat food that's been prepared by others and grown by others. But we gathered these goodies and came back to the house so that we could have the opportunity to cook together, to learn more about each other and to share. Her from a very different culture and background than me, and yet it was food that was creating community in this foreign place with new friends. And I was grateful. Not only did we prepare food together and eat together, but she took me through the garden around her home. Those potatoes and some of the other items that we had not purchased at the market came right out of her garden. And that, for a retired farmer, was a love and a sharing that was important to me. She took me through to show me the various plants. And then finding people in a place that's different, that are kind of like you. This was back in my longer hair days. Another American with locks like mine at the market doing the same thing as me, checking out the goods. And that opportunity to share from the things that I love with others who share those same loves is part of my community. The willingness to share, the willingness to find the points of connection, and then to share them with each other is about community. She and I aren't in the same ethnic background. Our heritage comes from different sides of the world. We're in two different generations, and yet these are the people that have become part of my community. And then the next table that I'd like to share with you. One of the individuals that was instrumental in me finding and negotiating a contract once I had decided to stay. I said, I think I really do want to live here. And the next thing you need to do is, where will you stay? And through the magic of relationships, there happened to be a place that came available. And on the morning after I had made the decision, I went for help with my friend Mirdad. He lived on the first floor, right under where I'm sitting right now. And he was willing to vouch for me. I think she might be a nice lady, and she's retired, so she don't have no babies that's going to tear up the place. I think she's a good bet. And with that nod of approval, the landlord, after about 10 or 15 minutes standing on the stoop in front of the building, says, I'll rent it to her, and he walks off. Mirdad was also the person that said, as I was trying to insist on making the process more complicated. Well, aren't there contracts and is there paperwork and do I need to do an application? And he says, repeat after me 5 times. This is not America. I'm not in the United States anymore. I am not in the United States anymore. I am not in the United States anymore. A handshake and a nod, and the deal is done. He did that on my behalf. And as transitions go, I finished my time here because I had a return ticket back to the United States, but knowing that I was going to be living in Cuenca, Ecuador. And I came back to the States to get my affairs in order. I still had a lease. I had liquidated the farm and my restaurant. I had sold the tiny cabins. I had moved into a temporary transitional apartment. I had a lease and a car and car insurance and all of those things that had to be dealt with. And as I came home, before I was able to return, Mehrdad passed away. He was in his 80s and lively, and he passed away on a night that he too was hosting a party for friends. I returned in time to participate in the memorial. The memorial was held at the community center right in front of our house, right in the park, with neighbors not only from the community here, but also neighbors from his faith community. He was a lifelong Baha'i, and there's a Baha'i fellowship here that he had been intimately involved in. But I realized in helping his wife, Christine, with this, that too centered around food. I remember saying, I can ease that burden because one of the first things that I moved here was 10 pounds of knives and the butcher block out of the restaurant that I retired from. I was able to take my gifts and my skills, and let me just tell you my passion, because chopping up stuff is my passion, and be able to offer assistance in this time to lighten the burden for her during this emotional time of her and this transition in life of going from the wife to the widow. And that people came together and talked and shared not only his passing, but their experiences with his life. And food, almost like the comfort and the connector, was a part of that. And so even though life has those things that cause us sadness, that those also become opportunities to come together and to be community. I live in a neighborhood that's primarily Ecuadorian, except I live in a building where all 4 of the flats happen to be immigrants like me. And to see those people come together to be able to support her in this time of mourning is what community means to me. And so I thought I'd share this table and these people, neighbors and friends in life and in their faith traditions, the people that support you in real ways, not just on the good days, but also on the days that are difficult. And so in the distance, you can see a brown building. That's where we live. And this community center is part of our community as well. And that these two are the tables of some of the community experiences that shape the community that I live in and the people that support me. Through them, I've become friends with some of the people in their faith tradition. Individuals who speak languages different from mine and whose spiritual practices may not always align, but they have become part of my community. And we gather again over tables of food. And then I fast forward to a group of people. And some of these video clips I'd like to share. I want you to see the differentness of the people first.
Napkin head. So now give me napkin head again. I'm thinking maybe she doesn't.
So much better.
There you go.
Yeah.
I always get jealous.
This is good.
It's cute.
It's cute.
You see my face is really slow.
I decided to let it go normal though because I was trying and always touching up the legs.
One of my friends from the internet, who also is an expat living in this community, one of her most special holidays, as she told us, was Thanksgiving. I sat next to a lady who was visiting from the States, Texas to be exact. We talked about the problems sometimes associated with the American holidays, and Thanksgiving is one of those. That we can celebrate thankfulness and gratitude, but there's also a history that is a memorial of sorts. But my friend Nikki, who invited me, shared her perspective, and I decided I'm going to adopt that too. And she says, are there any other holidays that we have specifically designated as a time to give thanks? And that because there aren't any, and this is one, she's going to co-opt this holiday. And instead of the problems that we have moving forward with the reality that there is never a bad time to give thanks, this group, an eclectic mix of people from all different cultures, came together and celebrated together and shared about the things that we were grateful for, including the time
What I have
together.
done is what I do every year. One, thank you for being. Gracias por ser un buen ser hermano. A todos. And so, with that in mind, I gave somebody at this end of the table a bag.
Oh, that was me.
And Scott, you have a bag. So if you will make sure that that gets passed from one end to that side of the table and this gets passed, everyone it's a grab bag.
Okay.
Everybody take something, please.
Aww, so sweet.
And happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Who are you? We don't know. That's why.
See? I want to steal 30 seconds of your time. I want to thank you for being here. Certainly, Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday. I didn't know anything about the history of Thanksgiving. All I knew when I went to the States is that my mama will overcook the turkey for hours. And we'll have lots and lots of food.
She's right there.
She's right there. She's overcooking the turkey right now. So anyways, this year, Omar and I are very thankful for so many things. I mean, we have a wonderful team. That's the first team I'm thankful for.
Yeah, guys.
My comadre Magali, she's always been with me for every Thanksgiving, so I took her off her job and she's helping us now, so I'm thankful for her.
Yes.
But mostly, I think Omar and I are very thankful for the house that we're building right now.
Yeah.
And that house wouldn't be possible without the generosity of so many of you. So it's a nightmare. It's a good nightmare. It's a wonderful nightmare, but it's coming along little by little. So for those who after dinner want to go see the house, how the state that it's in, we'll show you. So we're thankful to new friends like Ryan, like Jason, who are upstairs. We're thankful. Mike, thank you very much for
Did you
joining
all
us.
get part of the grab bag
We'll
upstairs?
shoot up the program back, guys. But anyways, we're so thankful we're just thankful for all of you, and we're obviously thankful for Maestro Segovia, who's a great
All of this honor is here.
So the one that deserves the most thanks is my mama for bringing us together. She's the one that worked. She's the one that did everything. Yesterday we had way too many bottles of wine with my team. So turkey's coming. Okay? Thank you very much in the start, guys. Thank you.
And I want to pause there for a moment. You know, this thing about timing. Hold on. Let's see. We talk about finding points of connection. I'm a retired farmer in my most recent vocation. And one of the people that I met very early on in my experience here in Cuenca, Ecuador, was this young man, younger than me. I'm moving into that grandmother phase of life. So of course, he's a young man. And he's running a farm-to-table restaurant. That was what I knew. Being in the industry, I wanted to reach out and say, what does that really mean? Because that can mean a whole lot of things to different people. And he began sharing with me his commitment to source his food, much of it from the women-run cooperative, a collection of women, agriculturas, farmers, who are raising food, and his commitment to source from them to prepare good food for the community. But the relationships go beyond that. He's also become president of his borough number 45. In this borough, he's made friends with the older man that he introduced, the maestro Eduardo Segovia. One of the field trips I took you on was this master. He's in his 80s now, and he's still a prolific painter and ceramicist. He is living history. Much of the artwork you saw around the walls were some of his work, and some of his pieces are pieces of art that I have in my home now. But he's made relationships with this gentleman, and one of the things that they collectively, this older man and these younger people, is they've gone and they've painted over the graffiti that might have been in some of the neighborhoods, and they found clean spaces, and they've taken young artists, and with his permission, they've taken his artwork and transposed them into murals on the walls of this neighborhood. And so you can walk through this neighborhood and see the connection with the old and the new, these young artists that have taken his artwork and brought it to life in new ways throughout this community. And so often when I'm going out for events or a special occasion, or just on a regular Tuesday afternoon sometimes, I go by and sit at their table and watch them do the things that I remember doing not too long ago, as I was the one and the tables were turned, farming the food, the women farmers from South Carolina, me being the first one, and preparing food from those delights for the people that would come and sit at my tables there in South Carolina. And so one of the places where I have found community, I found points of connection that have tentacles reaching into other areas, has been with this particular team at La Guarida, and with these friends who go there to gather for the special times where we intentionally stop and give thanks. And each one of us, food is the answer. We're there for the community, but food sure makes it taste better. And so one of the tables that I frequent with those that are part of my new community is La Guarida, with this team of people and friends. Each meal, a different sometimes set of friends, but they are part of my community. And then I mentioned Eduardo Segovia, and part of that relationship started right here. But I realized as I was preparing this that relationship has tentacles. The tentacles go and weave all throughout my life in a really fun and exciting way. And so I thought I'd share this particular group of pictures with you because a few months ago, they had a farm-to-table, 7-course farm-to-table dinner, and I said, I'm going. And sometimes I make last-minute decisions and don't have enough time to coordinate with friends, and I just realized I'll make friends on the fly, and this was one of those nights. As I came in early, I was preparing to sit down. They had prepared the place for us, waiting for us to arrive. And some of the sights that I began to see that were a little bit different this time. There was a little rest under the cutlery that looked like it was ceramics. It kind of looked like marble, but I thought, oh, how pretty. You see, right around this time, I was scheduled to go to my very first ceramics class, but it would be about a month from then. And in the meantime, I saw one of the individuals that's associated with this restaurant was doing a ceramics class. You could come and there'll be 3 classes and we'll make several plates from the class. And I thought, as an aspiring ceramicist, I'll see if there's availability, and the class was sold out. Well, I said, if there's any cancellations, my schedule is flexible. Please let me know. And I went on with my life. Well, as I was sitting at this dinner, by the time I got done, Omar, who was going to be the instructor, said, "Are you going to be at class tomorrow?" I said, "I don't know." He said, "We've made a seat for you." I said, "I guess I know what I'll be doing tomorrow."
That's been poached in
But sharing
olive
this
oil,
meal with
so
me.
cooked,
I'm picking
and you have a little crunchy thyme. Also.
crunchy thyme. It's been fried?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And the olive oil that's being cooked with the baby zucchini.
Where did this come from?
From everything is organic, so everything is from APAI, that is an organization
Uh-huh.
of women that grows their own.
So this is a
produce.
women's farm co-op,
Yes.
because I'm a retired woman farmer.
Oh, nice.
I'm a farmer and ran a farm-to-table restaurant, which is why I'm so excited that you guys are even here in Cuenca. And
Oh,
even
that's
more excited now to hear that these are women farmers that you are buying from today. All right.
Yeah, enjoy.
Thank you so much. All right. Thank you very much.
you.
And so this was course 1. But I began noticing the ceramics underneath it, and that made me excited.
That was the snack.
That was the snack. And what we have is crunchy quinoa, a circle of crunchy quinoa. We also have meyoko, which looks like this. You can see it in the
Yes.
market most likely.
With the fuchsia.
Yeah, we just cut it up, boil it just slightly, a little bit of salt, a little bit of olive oil. Then we're going gooseberries, a little bit of green peas.
You said gooseberries?
Gooseberries.
Are those the gooseberries?
Uvillas.
Are uvillas.
Uvillas.
I grew those one time.
Yeah,
Mhm.
they're delicious. And then we have a little bit of, ¿cómo se dice? Basil, small basil leaves. And then we have made a reduction of beet water, a little bit of mustard dressing, and green oil.
And green oil. Is that basil oil? The green
No,
oil.
In this case, we did it out of the leaves of the carrots.
Carrot leaves.
Carrot leaves.
Okay, to get that green oil.
Yeah,
All
and a little
right.
bit of dry flowers.
Dry flower. I see them. All
Dry.
right. Thank you.
And so as you heard, some of the things that he's incorporating into his work.
Oh, toasted?
So here we have our bisosua. We have the crunchy camote, crunchy sweet potato.
Camote. Oh.
And then also we have dehydrated our.
This is camote?
That's camote.
Okay.
Here's the camote, and then on top of the camote, we have carrot leaves that we have dehydrated with a little bit of achote and also green oil.
Green oil. All right. Thank you.
Are you noticing the ceramics? There's a theme. I'm going somewhere with that. And I began noticing after I ate my soup, I said, "Oh, this is so interesting, this piece."
White bean puree at the bottom, and then on top we have covered with beet carpaccio that we have cooked slightly, and then a little bit of a reduction of balsamic vinegar, olive oil, and a touch of salt.
Very good.
That's it.
Okay, we have one more question.
Yes.
Tell us the story of the shower.
Oh, the shower is just a memorial. When my father died, I said that was the nicest thing that he did for me because he didn't want me to take showers in his house.
Oh.
So he said, "I'll install a shower in your house so you don't have to come shower in my home." But he was so crafty, so crafty, that he installed it in like 5 to 6 minutes.
Oh, wow.
And it was the nicest thing because it was an open roof, and I took hours and hours of showers.
Oh, so
And then I
sweet.
never went back to his house, and then he passed away from pancreatic cancer.
So it's a nice
Oh,
memory.
Yeah, it is a nice
yeah.
one. It's the nicest thing he did.
Oh, so sweet.
Yeah.
Especially if they don't usually come out that way. You have something.
We knew there was a story. Okay, this is a white bean.
White bean
White bean and beets.
and beets.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
And so you hear me say we felt like there was a story because sitting next to me was Ruth. Ruth was my new friend. Ruth said it was her 80th birthday, but it was going to be her 80th birthday all year. So she was going to celebrate all year. And she and I, both interested in the meal, sitting side by side at our tables, became friends. She and I talked about the meal. We talked about the things in the place. We talked about that shower because there's a shower right there. And we knew there was some story. But in just our curiosity, we now know more about our friend, Andres. A little bit more about the story, a little bit more about his passion and how he's expressing those in a real way. And we ate, and we ate, and we ate.
Blue corn, and we have done an aioli of garlic and also capers. And we have topped it with a little bit of smoked trout.
Oh, trout. Wait, sweet. This is a blue corn tortilla,
It's a blue corn tortilla.
crispy with the
Just
aioli
pick it up.
and
Finger food.
smoked trout.
And smoked trout. Finger food. Or you
Okay.
can use fork and knife, but I would just pick it up.
Okay, okay.
Indulge yourself.
He's got something else.
And so she and I are going through this meal together.
So, here we have a fava bean and a green pea puree. And then we added a little bit of green beans there as well, sauteed green beans. We have cooked our beautiful chicken on a sous vide to make it perfect, just the breast. And then we had added a little bit of remolata on top.
Remolata.
So enjoy.
So the favas and the green beans and the chicken.
And so we ate through this, what ended up being 8-course farm to
Here we
table
have
The next one.
delight.
passion fruit mousse. We have sweated a little bit of strawberries with lime and sugar. We also have a little bit of passion fruit coulis and also blueberry coulis. So enjoy. This will be our first dessert.
Our first dessert. I like the way that sounds. I don't know what kind of sticky it was. We'll see. Okay.
All right.
Oh.
This is called Tree Tomato Heaven.
Treats are made in heaven?
In heaven. So we have this tree tomato sort of cold cream, and then we added 2 sorts of syrup. One that's right on top, that's a little bit thicker and a little sweeter, and then the one that's at the bottom, that's not as sweet, but I think it will complement perfectly, and we'll end our meal in a nice note.
Okay. Thank you. So a cold cream. And who you are, and anything else that you feel is important.
Hi, my name is Andres. I'm chef owner of La Guarida. We are in Cuenca, Ecuador, one of the most beautiful places on earth, if not the most beautiful place on earth. I'm sure there are a couple that can beat us. But nothing La Guarida is just a restaurant, more a destination. As we change often, we have 7-course menus, we have music, we have theater, we have a little bit of absolutely everything. So we're all over the place. So come join us anytime.
And tonight's tell us
Oops.
and
Sorry,
who you
guys.
are and anything.
We designed the menu with what they gave us. So tonight was an expression of that.
And so the women farmers fed the retired woman farmer a
Yes,
farm to table
yes.
dinner tonight, and I am so thrilled.
Thank you.
So
And there's my friend Ruth. I was delighted. But let me tell you what happened. At the end of this dinner, you remember I told you I was thinking about ceramics class, and I had said, Another class came up that let me do plates, but it was sold out. And at the end of this dinner, Omar, who you saw in the very first course talking to me, says, "We've made a space for you." And so the very next day, I went to yet another table to learn about his experience, him sharing his experience. And here we are at the table of the community house in District 45 with a whole new set of friends because we all had found a point of connection in learning ceramics. I'm not going to play this whole clip, but I want you to see as we gather around, all of us novices. But as we began this work, there's Carla, there's Lisa, there's Omar, some of the friends that I've met in this process. But there's a lady in the background who's been working on ceramics for some time, and her name is Candy Sugarman. What a great name, first of all, Candy Sugarman. But she was the helper in this class. It was my first time meeting her, and we spent several classes together. And it's this really cool thing that happens here in Cuenca. You meet people, especially expats, and then you know each other and you begin seeing each other all around town. Sometimes walking the street,
So you're going to put
sometimes at other activities.
25% of the
And
brand
that was the case with
and the
Candy.
rest with that.
I realized she was one of the local artists, and some of the other
mostly the
activities that I
gray,
went
a
through
little bit
after
of
this
that.
time, I realized we've been at the same place maybe before, but now we know each other. Well, let me fast forward on Candy and the connection with ceramics. We began making, of course, had to have lunch because, you know, ceramics making takes it out of you. But we shared lunch together in between our making. We went through the processes of designing our own individual pieces, of waiting for them to dry, of preparing for the next steps in the process. We did this together. All of us coming from different places, but right here around this table together, making bowls. And I told them, of all things, now I have to have a party to put snacks in my bowls and share. And I did. But Omar, a youngster who's learning under the maestro, Eduardo Segovia, and through that relationship, the old man and the young man, a new generation of artists is emerging. He has access to the master, and through that relationship has developed a love for pottery and can support my curiosity as I'm exploring new retirement hobbies and share with me. This is some of the work of Eduardo Segovia in the neighborhood, where the young artists have taken his work and transposed it onto the walls. Through that opportunity, it gave me an opportunity to go visit Eduardo Segovia.
This is where everything begins with.
His studio, where his prolific work is done, is right there in his home.
So he has some clay here.
The tools that he uses oftentimes are made right there in his studio. And I'm going to skip through this one, but to show you some of the wares, the pieces that he does.
Okay, I'm coming.
There's so much to see, so much to see, so much to see. And as I began looking, I thought, there's a specific thing that I'd like to have. And I asked his wife, is there any, by any chance, does he do any frogs? And she walked off and went into the house and came back with a particular piece. That's the inside joke now with Eduardo Segovia and me. And so through this relationship with La Guarida, the relationship with Eduardo Segovia has begun. And this frog, she says, it must have been waiting for you. I said, you're doggone right it was, because how many people do you know whose name translates the frog? And now I have a frog made by the master for the frog LaRahna. And so he and I now share this joke where he sees me in town at random bus stations, and he yells out, LaRahna. Now to everyone standing around, this old man is yelling out to this Black woman saying, the frog, the frog. And he and I both laugh and hug now when we greet each other out in the streets. Because through that relationship at those tables with La Guarida and the relationship they've made with this older man, still practicing his art and inspiring the next generation in Omar, I too now have a relationship with Eduardo Segovia, and we have an inside dad kind of joke that will always be in my heart. And each time that I see this frog sitting on my table here in my home, it also gives me something to tell my children about. And that gives me joy. And these two are some of the friends I've met. But one of the other things that Andres has taken on in his role in this community as an art project that has covered the power boxes and the circuitry boxes in the neighborhood with reminiscence of the masters. And this particular box on this particular day is Maria Segovia, Eduardo Segovia's mother. Because many times the craftspeople here come from generations of craftspeople, and he was none different. His mother was a ceramicist, and now the master is part of inspiring a new generation and inspiring me in a new craft that might be one of my new hobbies. Maybe it will, maybe it won't, but I'll have these memories, and I bring these memories out every time I have a party at my house. There's often goodies and treats sitting on my table on this tray, and it reminds me of the relationships that I've met that have spurred into relationships with people who share a point of connection with me. This young man and this older man, and now me too as a part of this community, because I tell them I'm Quancana too. I'm an immigrant kind, but I too am part of this city and part of this community. And so this is part of a budding relationship. But then, like I said,
tell us where you're from and what languages you speak.
Since you've got new plates.
English and Spanish, and I'm from Southern California, but I have been in Ecuador for 5 years, and this is where I plan on staying.
And who's here with you?
Mono.
And Mono's here. All right, Jeannie.
America, I'm from America. I live in Ecuador.
A little bit difficult to hear her. She's from America.
2 years now.
She's from Washington.
And I speak English and some Spanish.
Okay.
All right.
English and a little bit of Spanish spoken.
Well, I'm also came with my mother and originally from Portland. And I work in the cryptocurrency industry, and I do remote work here. And I have no plans to go back to America. I like Cuenca a lot. I want to stay here.
Languages?
Been studying Spanish for 2.5 years now.
All right.
Beginner. I can have a conversation with a 6-year-old. Great.
You do good. You do good.
And English is my main language.
All right.
I am Aram. I'm from France and Senegal, and I speak French, English, and Wolof from Senegal.
In Senegal.
Yeah.
Traveling.
Traveling.
This is month, how many of your travels?
I've been traveling for 11 months now.
So this is month 11, and you have connected with your sister. Tell us who you are.
Also Senegalese and French.
Wait, say your name again.
Paya,
Paya.
like the papaya, which is one of my favorite fruits. Also French and Senegalese, and I'm just starting a 2-month trip now across Latin America, and I speak French, English, Spanish un poco, and Wolof, which is the Senegalese language.
And they came and shared this time with us before they head to the coast. I know. And Tony.
Hi, I'm Tony. Let's see. I'm from nowhere and everywhere. English, French, Spanish, and Patois.
So we've got how many total languages spoken?
And yourself?
I'm LaRahna, English, and working on Spanish. So we've got English, Spanish, French, Wolof, and Patois here today. 5 languages. Pretty exciting. Well, thank you all for coming and sharing your trip with us, and safe travels on the rest of the way.
Part of this was because I had new pottery, and I wanted to share that experience with others, and any reason is a reason to have a party I'm trying out brunch parties. This was a breakfast and brunch party because I had new containers. I had new ceramics that, deserved a party of their own. But oftentimes the parties that I have here around the table, I think on the one that we had the most languages, we had 10 languages spoken at the same table, 10 different languages. Part of the passion projects that I've launched since retiring. So if I could be doing anything, what would I be doing? And it would be healing community. And I launched a small healing center called the International Welcome Center. And part of that is often represented when I go around the table and say, where did we come from and what are the languages spoken here? And as you could hear, the diversity's there. We look different. We're on different paths in life, yet all of us centered around the same table and sharing in that time together. But this story continues in a windy kind of way because this party was celebrating the ceramics that I made because Omar had a class and he got an extra seat, but it was at that class that Eduardo Segovia came in and looked over my shoulder and said that my bowl was beautiful. So no one ever will be able to tell me that my pottery isn't beautiful because the master told me so. But it was in that class that I met Candy Sugarman, who was assisting Omar in teaching these students, one of his first classes. This is new for him, in teaching the craft that he's been learning from the master. And even as I was preparing today, and I really should have been resting because I've been playing a lot recently, and I promised myself to rest, I saw a Facebook post this morning. And when I saw it, it was one of my friends, Candy Sugarman. And it was a new restaurant that I didn't know about, that her artwork was being sold at. And I saw this mug and it made me laugh. And I thought, artists do things for other people. There's something they envisioned, but there's someone out there in the big wide world that might connect with it and it might have additional meaning for them. And so this morning, because I can do anything I want to do, I decided I was going to hurry up and put my outside clothes on. And I was going to go hunt down this mug. I'd gotten on the Facebook grapevine within our Cuenca circles and says, is that mug at that restaurant? And I think they have breakfast. Is that right? And of course, the instigators in my life said, it is correct, it is there, and they do have breakfast. I said, that's good enough reason for me. I'm putting on my outside clothes. I've got guests staying at the center, and I sent them a message and says, I'm on an adventure to go find a mug, but there's breakfast that's going to be included in that. Would you like to go? And so with friends in hand, and if some of you are on my social media on my birthday trip, a whirlwind trip, I purchased a pink raspberry beret. And I thought this is the perfect opportunity. I'm going on an art run for me to pull out my beret. And I set off this morning to go find this delight because I thought, I know that artist. She's living her passions, and I definitely want to support that. But how can you not have a good day if you start your day with this? I thought, this is a reminder of how I want to go into my days in my life. I want them to feel good and a little bit whimsical and a whole lot funny. And so this morning, as I went on a quest with a friend that's visiting, someone that I didn't know, but who is a friend, because we've shared several meals together now. And we found that our life has some similarities. Hers with jump rope, and my knees say that's not your new hobby. But in the work of healing community, her work takes her to places like Ghana and Kenya, other places around the world and in the United States where she goes and does work. And she usually has her jump ropes in her backpack. And she teaches children and adults double Dutch when the opportunity presents. I've seen pictures of her even since she's been here, teaching the children and the adults double Dutch. But she and I on a quest for art. This windy connection of people Because of the farm to table and being there, and because that they were offering the class, I met Candy, and Candy is an artist, a ceramicist who is spreading joy and living her passions in this way. We traipsed off this morning to get another table. Another table because I needed to go find this mug, because I thought, isn't this the way I want to do life every day? And so that is one of the tables, and the far-reaching kind of tentacles that swirl and kind of ebb and flow in my life, but this complicated web of strings and connections and points of connections, and all of them come back to the table. And even today, as I'm sitting here, because my nap wasn't long enough, with an afternoon cup of coffee that I shouldn't be drinking. I should be drinking tea. It's a convertible cup. It also does tea. One of my newest joys in my life, from this windy experience that started with a farm-to-table restaurant and a retired woman farmer that appreciated this young man supporting the women farmers in this community. I have a new mug. But it's also the winding tale of part of the relationships I've made, and how those tables have created those relationships, or the opportunities for those relationships for me. And that was one of the tables that I wanted to share. And then the last table is really a table of reflection, because although I'm doing community in a different place, community is part of my lifestyle. I was a retired farmer, ran a farm-to-table restaurant and a catering company. Before that, I had a farmer's market that was a part of this work as well. But as I was looking at pictures and gathering things, I realized food has been one of those things that has been community for me. This is back in South Carolina, some years back, when that was home. This was in a little place called White Pond, South Carolina, at the edge of Aiken County, where having people around the table was a part of my work, but part of my passion. Bringing people together where, even though all of our differences may be apparent or not apparent, we all come together over good food and friendships, and throw a little fun and music in there, and it's a party. Older people, but also younger people, the student chefs in one of the high school culinary programs that came together. But then as I moved, it's realizing friends, neighbors, sitting at the table with neighbors, some of them those who have moved on to other places. Friends from South Carolina, they're sitting at the table joining me and making friendships also global. It's parties for who knows what kinds of reasons, where neighbors, both young and old, come together. As I look at these pictures, there's various faith traditions being practiced: the Baha'i faith, Catholicism, and some things in between. Coming together for reasons of celebration. Birthdays for me have been one of those reasons, but it's definitely not the only one, just another excuse. There's 3 ladies that I celebrate my birthday with. On this particular one, that's one of them. I just recently had a birthday party, the Cuatro Amigos, with my neighbor who turned 88, my neighbor who turned 93, and me and another young'un in our 50s. But these people of different ages and generations, different backgrounds and different languages, all coming together around the table. Groups that I'm engaged in, those that live here and have made that move with me, gathering in places to spend time together. New friends who come and show me new recipes, or show me how to perfect recipes that I already know, who bring me local cacao and let me share with them my experiments of making really good mochachinas, because that's one of my hobbies now. But it's also the people that I meet where our point of connection may only be for this day or this afternoon. This is one of the pictures that I've captured during my time here. There's a lunch counter at the bus terminal that I like to go through, and it's one of those places where you're on your way back home from somewhere, and that's the transfer spot. And there was an old lady who spoke Quechua. She wanted food. And on that particular day, I had $2 to be able to provide her with a meal. But my request was, sit down and let's eat together. And she obliged. And so she too is my community, even though our point of connection might be only for the 15 or 20 minutes that we shared that yellow table together. But she too is my community. And so these experiences, so many as I began reflecting on my album, my daughters coming for a visit and allowing us to go have a tea party just because mom wanted to, or friends that I'm now working on bigger projects like intentional community building, who go on excursions and find new friends. Miss Patricia, who we woke up and she said, I'll fix something for you. And we were real hungry and real grateful. And she too, as I've told her, is now part of my family. And then even at the end of November, after I finished a whirlwind birthday vacation, friends to gather over cake and music, to come see the gifts and goodies that I bought myself on my world tours, but to see my friends, different generation, come and agree to share with me in their birthdays. These are my birthday amigas, Miss Senora Regina and Senora Jeannie, friends that we don't share even the same generation, but we share the tables frequently. And they too, like the people on Thanksgiving, like all of the other faces that come and ebb and flow into my life, are my community. And so as I shared, this really could be a story about how the tables have shaped community for me. But it's been a wonderful exploration. And I realized that appreciating our diversities has added to the rich experience that I'm having, even as I'm been welcomed into this culture of South America, into this city of Cuenca. And that for me feels good. And so that's my sharing, some of the exploits and adventures that I've been on, but so many of them are about taking the time to make relationships. And oftentimes that time is over the tables that I sit at. There's so many others that I couldn't share them all, even though I wanted to. I wanted to scroll you guys through all the wonderful food experiences that I've had. But one of the lessons, and hopefully the takeaway that you're able to take away from this, is that we're community. I'm community. And my choice of being involved with the people around me are what make community. We can be neighbors, because proximity makes us neighbors, but relationship is what makes us community. I'm grateful for the relationships that I've had the opportunity to experience since being here. And I know that those relationships will continue to expand with each exploit, each adventure, and a whole lot of shenanigans in between. And so I'd like to thank you all for letting me share that. And then I'll open it up if there's any questions, or I hope it's made you hungry. Any questions about my experience moving to Ecuador, or any of the things that you saw in today's picture field trip. This would be a good time. Feel free to unmute and share in us today.
You did make me hungry. But it was looking really good.
Yeah.
I'm so, you know what I think is interesting is I never would have thought of hitting retirement age and then moving to like a whole other country. And I think that's such a very interesting thing, and how you meet others from those countries from here that have moved there. I'm like, I find it so very interesting, like that this is a trend or a thing to do. Like, how cool is that?
Way cool, way cool. It's way cool. It is way cool.
I mean, any of my ancestors, they retired and they just were home.
Yeah, this community has so I'm in a town, it's about 600,000 people. So this is the third largest town in Ecuador city. And we actually have a very large expat population. They estimate about 10,000 or so. But the real
Yeah.
cool thing is it has a very small town feel. When I go into town, I see my friends in the street. Hey, LaRahna. Hey, Tom. Hey, LaRahna. I see them in my goings and comings. It's that kind of community where we all kind of funnel into the same places. I see them going to markets. I see them when I'm
Well,
out playing.
and it seems to have that community feeling of like 20 years ago, where you or your kid could walk down 2 blocks and turn a right and go someplace and be fine.
I liken it to 1970s, except we have high-speed internet and a light rail that you can take for 35 cents. But part of it also is the culture. One of
Right.
the things I learned very quickly was that when you go to a gathering, the expectation, the norm, is that you greet every individual there personally.
Oh, yes. You know what? I remember
You
this from the Spanish gatherings that I went to growing up. I forgot about that.
speak, you hug each other, you
Because
kiss each
people would
other.
go all the way around the
Every
room.
person is greeted personally. And then when it's time to go, the same thing happens. So activities take a very long time, but you having a life that moves at a pace where you have the time for connection.
Right, right, right.
When I go shopping, I use the mercados. I may have 10 of my friends that I've stopped in on. I've gotten my hug and my tomatoes. I've gotten my hug and my flowers or my bananas or my fruit or my cheese or my eggs. The connection is part of the norm, not the alternative. And so that is a huge difference in the way community feels. Little kids still play at the park with their mom and their grandparents on the weekend or on a random Wednesday night. They still gather in the parks for celebrations. For anyone that follows my social media, this past Monday, on a Monday night, the festivities, they're gearing up for the holidays. I went to what was a block party that went on for hours on a Monday night with people, families, children, the seniors, literally dancing in the
Yeah,
street,
yeah.
live music. That is what community feels like on so many days. And that's part of the gratitude that I have on so many days waking up here. So I'm grateful for the experience.
Yeah.
Any other comments? Any other questions before we exit this field trip bus, this virtual
Yes,
field
I
trip bus?
do.
Who is that? That is
Beth.
Beth. Go ahead, chime in, Beth.
Yes. I got a chat message today.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording.
Pine Tree
Excellent.
Society. Go ahead and start Pine Tree Society link.
Say that again, Beth.
The Pine Tree Society Community Services.
I saw that in your chat. You put the community service for people with special needs.
Yep. Use
Yes.
the Pine Tree Society link.
Thank you. Yes. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you for sharing. All right. Thanks for sharing. Any other?
Bye, girls.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Beth. Any other comments or sharing before we leave today? So grateful to have all of you
That's
here.
it.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining. Thank you again. Be sure and check out some of the upcoming events. I've got several on the calendar for going into next year. We'll be visiting some wonderful places. Let me see. On the list, Madrid. We'll be talking about flamenco dancing in Madrid, Spain, Tangier, Morocco, and a few other places, Paris and London, and music and dance and a bunch of other things. So if you haven't
can't wait.
signed up, be sure and sign up for the updates and consider joining us on some future field trips.
Yes.
Christina, thank you so much for helping me with the
Thank
technical
you.
part. We thank you all for joining us and letting me share in the experience of community that I'm having. I hope that you too have enjoyed, and we will see you on the next field trip.
And have a good night. I know Anna's in Frankfurt, right? You said it was midnight before, so now it's 1 a.m.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for staying up to the wee hours of the night to join in.